Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we are back with another brand new Jurassic World Rebirth release. As you can see, it is another of the Takara Tomy figures. This time we've got ourselves the Titanosaurus. And this is definitely a very exciting one. Really cannot wait to see this figure once it's out of the box. I usually quite enjoy the Takara Tomy sauropods. I will say I'm surprised that Takara Tomy did not unveil a D-Rex. I don't know if that's something they have in the works, but so far I have not seen one. But you can see the packaging looks pretty much as all the other packages have looked. Again, pretty much the same style. Also shows how awkward the neck articulation is for the figure. And then you can see another shot here on the back of our Titanosaurus, or maybe this would be the front. I don't really know. Kind of looks like the same thing, honestly, either way. Just a little bit of different images. But you can also see, again, the card that we have included. So let's pop this open and check it out. So first of all, we have the card, and you can see the card looks really, really cool. Definitely a very nice shot of our Titanosaurus, and again, the standard there for the back. And then we have our Titanosaurus itself, and as you can see, it's definitely quite a large figure for being Takara Tomy. Absolutely one of the largest that they have released so far, and my camera doesn't want to focus on it for some reason, but also probably one of the more striking. I will say, though, when we bring it in nice and close, we get a look at that head sculpt. That's the only thing that I can say looks a little bit off as far as this one goes. Not so much that it looks off, it just looks super muted as far as the detail goes. I feel like there was definitely some potential there to add some nice looking skin texture, but overall it doesn't really look that high quality, not all that highly detailed. We can see the nostrils, we can see the mouth is slightly open, and then the eyes are nothing more than a black coloration, and that's about it. It does have a kind of like brownish gray sort of tone to the face. As we lead up into the back of the neck, you do of course have that very interesting, almost sail-like area for the dinosaur. You can also see that we do have some dark striping that moves down along the side of the neck leading down. We as well have a light tone moving down through the throat of the Titanosaurus. As you lead through, you do have a nice transition down to that tone of color, actually. Lots of creases as far as the skin in the neck goes as you lead through. You also have some more oranges that pop up leading down through the body of the dinosaur, and again that lighter tone moving down along the underside of the neck, and then the orange leading here before disappearing into the grayish sort of a tone for the body color. I will say the mechanics of the neck do not look very good, especially when you look at it from the underside here. It is just super, super awkward looking. It does, of course, have the ability to articulate the neck right there and then right here. So you can get some super weird poses for the neck of the dinosaur. It can place its face into its armpit. It can lift its head up and look back behind it. And of course, it can do all sorts of different very weird poses, but the neck could articulate in a way where it doesn't look super out of place or super terrible, but it does have an awkwardness to it, no doubt about that, especially when it comes to the kind of huge gaps that you have so that the articulation can work smoothly. It just doesn't really look that great, and I would say when it comes to the articulation, it's probably some of the worst looking articulation I've ever seen on a Takara Tomy figure. But as you move in and you get a nice closer look, you can see once we lead down into the body, the skin texture does look really quite nice. You can also see the spinal column leading down along the back of the neck. The body itself does sport some very nice, very impressive fine detail to it that my camera doesn't want to focus correctly on. And you can see again the skin texture really does look quite lifelike, quite realistic. I think they did a very good job as far as that actual texturing in the body goes, as well as displaying the musculature. Both the front and rear legs look super, super strong, as you would expect them to be considering the massive size of this dinosaur. We obviously have the legs in a walking pose as the front foot is picking up off of the ground as you lead down. Again, the musculature is super impressive. You've got the wrist and everything sculpted nicely, the toes as well, and then of course the nails are painted with a light tone somewhat sloppily, but they look okay for what it is. As you lead up into the stomach, you can kind of make out the rib cage, as well as again more really nice looking skin detail. Leading up here toward the back, we've got the hip bones slightly protruding through the skin, more muscle definition, as well as kind of like a little bit of saggy skin moving down along the back of the leg. You have the kneecap right here in the front, but as you move down into the foot sculpt, here's where it gets really ugly, because the paintwork for the claws is awful. Like, that is just like a massive amount of paint applied there in somewhat of a sloppy way that really takes away from the overall appeal of this figure. As you move up into the tail, you can see that other area, that again kind of sail-like area leading along the back of the dinosaur. It looks decent as far as the sculpting goes. The skin texture as well looks really nice as we lead out into the tail, and then you again have the nice curvatures of that really long whip-like tail with that striping effect leading out here with a dark green striping, and I think that looks okay. The actual striping looks okay. Obviously the tail isn't quite as long and whip-like as you actually see in Rebirth, but when it comes to a Takara Tomy version, I think it's alright. You do of course have more articulation here in the tail. You can cause the tail to go completely straight down to the ground, which again, super awkward looking, doesn't really go up much at all, but does go down quite nicely or quite far. And then you also have this area out here which can swivel, and everything has got the ball joint so you can turn it all over the place if you would like. Again, pretty much the standard when it comes to the articulation of Takara Tomy figures. The biggest difference on this side that you're going to see would be the positioning of the legs, specifically the front leg, which is planted and definitely showing off the muscle definition of this dinosaur, the very strong nature of it, because the muscles are tensed everywhere, especially since this one is currently, this leg is supporting the front half of the dinosaur as this leg is lifting up off of the ground and walking. So they've shown that off very nicely in the actual sculpt. And even in general, as you kind of turn the figure and allow the light to hit it, you can really get a good feel for the incredible shape that this dinosaur is in and all of the musculature all over. The claws are again painted really sloppily here on that rear foot. And of course everything else is going to look pretty much the same the entire way through, pretty much just as awkward as it has everywhere else. As far as a size goes, for a length, if we go from the tail to the head, about 7 3/4 inches or around 20 centimeters. And then for a height, about a little over 5.5 inches or just a little over 14 centimeters, but not by much. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day Human Being next to our Titanosaurus from Takara Tomy, and you can very clearly see this figure is much larger than any of the other Takara Tomy figures I have recently reviewed. And to show you that, here is the Quetzalcoatlus from Takara Tomy for Jurassic World Rebirth, which is obviously quite large, but not nearly as large as the Titanosaurus. We've also got the Spino, which is significantly smaller than our giant sauropod. And again, the same case when you have the T-Rex come in, it's obviously quite a bit smaller than the Titanosaurus. And then just a few random Takara Tomys of previously released figures. We have the JP3 Ceratosaurus, which is a lot smaller, as well as the Allosaurus, which again, quite a bit smaller. And then, yep, you guessed it, the Parasaurolophus as well is a lot smaller. So this brand new Takara Tomy Jurassic World Rebirth Titanosaurus figure is pretty cool, but it's not incredible. It's not as nice as some of the others, I think mostly because the neck articulation is just so awkward looking and so distracting here in person. It really does take away from the figure quite a bit. I wish that Takara Tomy could find some other way to articulate their figures. You know, there was a time where I was really quite content with the articulation of the Takara Tomy brand, and I still am okay with it because it is kind of part of their charm. It's like their trademark, but as time goes on and they come up with new ways to articulate their figures, the new ways are somehow ending up looking worse than even their old ways, and that's definitely the same case here with our sauropod. And this is the same case we had with a previously released sauropod that came from Takara Tomy with their Argentinosaurus, which was pretty much the same size and everything and same sort of style as this one, but the articulation I think might actually look even worse on this one than it did on the Argentinosaurus. But once you move past the articulation, the actual sculpt of the figure is quite nicely done, does sport some nice detail. It's a little washed out in a few areas like the face, but for the most part, the detail does look quite nice and it does look quite reminiscent to the way the dinosaur looks in the film. The articulation is, again, as I already stated, awkward, but there is quite a bit of it as you have 2 joints in the neck and 2 joints in the tail, which does allow some posability, and the paintwork is okay. Again, not quite quite what you see on the dinosaur in the film, but it's alright by Takara Tomy standards, just not really that great, not that amazing, but it's okay. So if you are interested in this one, I will include a link in the description to where you can purchase this again from the eBay seller that I was speaking of previously that does have this one available. Again, it is a seller here in the United States, so if you are in the US, it's a great opportunity to grab these and not have to wait a very long time for them to arrive. So check the link, definitely pick this up if you'd like it, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.